Hey guys, Luke here with another dev blog update. Just thought I'd give you guys a quick rundown of the progress I've made this week. It's been a pretty good week as well, with the public holiday and everything. I've managed to get a bit done. So I'll jump straight into it. I've actually got a list this time, so yay for, forward thinking. First of all, you can see that the icon for the actual app's changed a little bit. I've got my new wing in there, which is pretty cool, I think. I'll probably just change it up a little bit. Just so it kind of conforms to more of the Android standards for icons and stuff. I've got to make it look just a tiny little bit more 3D. As you'll notice, a lot of the icons that come stock with Android do look a bit 3D, so I'll do that, but it's not a priority. Anyway, we'll jump straight into it. So, the first thing you'll notice is I've created some more icons for the homepage. So yeah, this is my first crack at iconography, if that's even a word. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. I should just put a little disclaimer on here. For the initial release, these things probably won't be enabled. I'm going to keep the icons there, just because the homepage looks, well, the home screen looks really, really weird with only 3 buttons on it. And also, yeah, it lets you guys know that it's definitely in the pipeline. It's definitely something that I'm going to look at developing. So yeah, I think that's all kind of turned out pretty well. Now, one of the things you guys haven't seen, which to be honest there probably isn't much to have a look at, is the preferences. So what I'm going to do is, because an app this big can start to get fairly complicated when it comes to settings, and you guys don't know where all the settings are for, say, the weight and balance or the flight planning and all that kind of thing, I'm going to put them all in the one area. You'll notice at the top right hand corner I've got a little preferences button. So if we click on here, we've got all preferences for the different sections of the app. Obviously there's nothing in the ones that I haven't developed yet, but it will kind of look like this. So and this is an example of how you input your username and password into Air Services. So you can click on that and just put your information in there, and basically all the settings for the entire app are going to be housed in here, just all in one central location, which will hopefully make it a bit easier for you guys to keep track of, and make it a bit more intuitive. And for the initial release, I'll probably just grey out these ones that, are pretty useless, seeing as that component hasn't actually been implemented just yet. So back onto the sections. I did tell you a little bit about it just before, but for initial release, I'm going to definitely have the weather one going, and I'll show you a couple of the changes I've made in there a bit later. But one of the ones I have also developed that I'm going to give you guys on release is the scratch pad. It's just a little kind of muck around thing I was doing the other day, and decided to implement it for you guys. Seeing as you guys have been waiting so long, I thought I'd give you more than one thing on release. So I'll give you a quick look. There's still a little bit of work to do, but you'll get the idea of what it's for. So if we go into the scratch pad, you'll see just a blank canvas, and basically what you can do is you can just write on it. So I can say hello there. And this can be used for heaps of different things, like just say you're at a large airport and air traffic control gives you heaps of different taxiways you need to take to get to the runway. You can write them down in here and all that kind of thing. So I'm sure you guys are going to find heaps of uses for it. I've got a little color picker down here, so you can just really quickly change the color. You can also change the width of the stroke, that kind of thing. And if you're unhappy with it, you can clear it. So a couple of things I do need to implement before release, which release isn't going to wait for this. I know you guys have been waiting for the weather stuff for quite a while, and this will all be done before the weather stuff. So weather is the actual thing I'm waiting on for release. This isn't actually holding me back from releasing, because this is fairly easy to implement. But yeah, I need to make it persistent. So when you say hello and you go back out to the menu, for example, and come back in, it isn't there anymore. So I haven't done that yet, but it obviously will be in there, because what I'd imagine is, just say you'll be flying around with your maps and navigation out, and you need to write something down really quickly. You can jump into the scratch pad, write down whatever it is you need to put in there, flick back to your maps and navigation, and yeah, whenever you come back to see the scratch pad, it'll still be there for you. One of the other things I was thinking of doing with this is putting a quick button on like every single screen in the app, probably up here somewhere, if you can see that, that literally just flips the view over and it just takes you straight to the scratch pad. So no matter where you are in the app, you can just tap that button once and it will bring up your scratch pad. You can tap it again and it'll take you back to whatever you were doing before. So that's something I think you guys might find useful. Let me know if you've got any suggestions for that, because yeah, obviously it was kind of just a spur of the moment thing to put it in there. But yes, now with the different sections, so Scratchpad I've just told you about, weather and flight planning, that's pretty straightforward. I've been telling you about that for a little while. Weight and balance, it's basically, that was the original thing I was going to do. I was originally going to do a weight and balance calculator, and it basically, you know, you put in all of your information about your aircraft, and it probably even will have a few default aircraft for, I know, all the light Cessnas and Robbies and stuff like that that fly around, and you can just put in all your different weight points and how much fuel you've got, and it will give you a nice little graph to say, hey, you're in balance, or hey, you're out of balance, you need to change something. So that's probably the functionality of that. There's a couple of weight and balance calculators, oh, the screen just turned off, already on the market. So it'd probably be fairly similar functionality to those, but again, like I said, I want this to be the one-stop shop for all of your aviation needs. So that's the plan. Maps and navigation. I've already kind of shown you a little demo of how that's probably going to work in my last video. Ideally, I want to get it to a point where you have all the maps and everything, and it's all GPS enabled, so you can see where you are on all the maps, and there'll be heaps of cool functionality in there as well. That's probably, at this stage, that's probably what I'm going to be working on next, just because I feel it's probably going to be the most useful for you. The converter and the acronym dictionary, it's basically, it's going to be like a CR2 calculator on steroids. So it'll do all the CR2 calculations, it'll have heaps of conversions, so for like unit converters, and it'll also just have an acronym dictionary. So it's kind of just a quick utility section that, you know, I think you guys might find useful. And then obviously the subscriptions. And that'll just be a page that you can see all the information about your subscriptions, how long they've got left on them, and yeah, it's basically just a subscription management page. So that's the different sections so far. If you guys got any questions on any of that, feel free to chuck it in the forum or on the comments in the video, and I'd love to kind of hear your feedback on what you think of those. But yeah, anyway, onto some changes that I've made. So in the weather area, so we'll have a look at the, I know I hit this one up every time I make a video, but location briefing, just because it's the one that everyone uses. Now, you guys probably can't see that too well on your screen. In fact, I'm looking at my computer monitor and I can't see the difference. But each of these kind of little areas is broken up into sections. So locations, validity, include, all that kind of thing. It's actually in their own little containers. I don't really know why it's not showing up on the computer, but I will post some screenshots of what this looks like currently. Also, the left-hand menu looks kind of white on the computer. It's actually a bit darker. So yeah, again, I'll post some screenshots to show you guys what it actually looks like. I'd love to get your feedback on those. Let me know what you think, whether it's kind of clear for you and intuitive as to what each of the sections does. One of the other things I've done is put all of, usually the submit and reset buttons were down at the very bottom of the form. I've actually moved those up into the action bar, just to the right, as you can see. And I just think that's a little bit easier, especially when you get to really long forms like this flight notification form and you're scrolling down. It means you don't have to always scroll right to the very bottom to submit. And that all works as expected. One of the things, just as a little kind of by the way, the very first time that you go to get a briefing, if I hit submit there, this is in real time too, and this is running on my device, so this is how quickly it'll actually be. There you go. It takes a little bit of time, and now just say if I wanted to go and add Coolangatta onto that briefing, I'll hit submit, and you'll notice that it does it a lot quicker. This is because the very first time my app detects that you're going to go get a briefing, it does a quick check to see if you're logged into the Air Services service. And if you're not, then it does the login. So that's the first time, and that's why it takes a little bit longer on the first time. And then the second time, as you saw, it was a lot quicker. This is because the quick check to see if you're logged in goes, yep, I'm logged in. I don't need to worry about logging in again. I'm just going to go fetch the briefing for you. So yeah, that's in case any of you, when you get this, are wondering why it takes a little bit longer the very first time you run it. That's why. One of the other things I've done is form validation. So just say I didn't put any locations in and I go submit, you'll see a little pop-up box, and again it looks white on the screen, but it's actually kind of got a very, very subtle red background. Again, I'll put screenshots in the thread on pprune for you to have a bit of a look at. But yeah, it does real-time client-side form validation. So this means that just say you hit submit and you would have to then connect to the internet and it would try and get the briefing, and then Air Services would say, oh, you don't have any locations, and then it would send back an error. It takes a lot of time. Whereas if I check all the form stuff before you send it, I can almost tell you what's wrong with it instantaneously. The only exception to this is, for example, if you put in a location that didn't exist. So hopefully this one doesn't exist. I don't think it does. Yeah, and in that case I can't really check for that just at the moment, because the database that holds all the locations that Air Services accepts is pretty huge, and I'm not even sure if I can get a hold of a copy. So yeah, I've tried to do as much of the form checking on this within the app itself to save you guys a lot of time, especially when it gets to the bigger forms and stuff. I can see that it might get a little bit annoying if you had to submit and then it would send to the server and you have to wait for all that internet connectivity before you get your results back. So that's where that's at the moment. Let me have a bit of a look. Move on to top validation. I think that's everything on my list. Yeah, so what I might do is I'll put up a couple of screenshots of how this looks at the moment, because unfortunately it's very washed out in this video, and it all just looks pretty much like a white background, but it does look a bit different to that at the moment. I'd love to hear your feedback, guys, any comments you might have, any suggestions, any criticism. I'm always up for a bit of criticism. It helps me make a better product for you. So thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.